Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you remain standing, we have Curtis Smith, who is going to give us our invocation today.
Honorable Mayor, members of the community, and also citizens of the community, let us pray. Lord, we pause in your holy presence to ask your blessing on the participants of this council meeting. Bless the citizens who will share before this council assembly. May they speak with respect as they share their concerns. Let their voices be heard and trigger credible actions which will be beneficial to all citizens of the great city of Santa Ana. We ask that you would revoke and invoke a blessing upon the individuals who will be honored, and to bless the upcoming activities and events which will be set aside on the calendar in recognition by proclamation. With providential direction and divine intervention, we ask you to guide the thinking of the mayor and the council members in their decision-making with regard to the items listed on the agenda. May this council meeting, which was called to order, be conducted expeditiously with dignity and honor and adjourn in harmony. We pray in your holy name, and all of God's people said, Amen.
Thank you. As my good friend, Supervisor Sean Nelson approaches, I just want to say that I had the privilege of working with him as a board member on the South Coast Air Quality Management District for a few years. And I can tell you he did a fantastic job there. Very, very positive. And we're here today to talk about how California's Clean Air Day goal is to spread this message of reducing pollution, making everybody healthier through the basic thing. And the most basic thing of all is air. And clean air is a big, big deal. I remember when I was growing up as a kid here in Southern California, we couldn't see the Santa Ana mountains. One day it was like a windy day, and you get out and you're looking like, wow, there's mountains there. Now we see them often, really almost every day, unless it's raining. I mean, you see them all the time, but believe me, it was really bad around here a long time ago. Now we have more cars, more trains, more people, more miles driven, more of everything, yet we have cleaner air. And that's really a miracle. And the reason it's so is, I believe, in large part because of the South Coast Air Quality Management District. And before I present a certificate to Supervisor Nelson, I want him to say a few words and tell you in his own words the good job that South Coast AQMD is doing here in Southern California. Supervisor Nelson?
Well, Mayor, thank you very much. As you have pointed out, we did have the privilege of serving for several years together. And for those of you who are at least my age or maybe a little older, as Mayor Polito has pointed out, it wasn't that long ago where smog days were a common occurrence. If you were a school child and it was warm out, you couldn't go out and play sometimes because the air quality was just too bad. We don't have those days anymore, but the air is not as clean as it can be. It's just a lot cleaner than it was. And although There are some of us on the board that, we don't think that we celebrate our victories enough because there has been tremendous progress made. There are still thousands of people that live in this basin that suffer every day with asthma and other respiratory illnesses just because we do have a lot of vehicles and trucks just due to the nature of the number of people we have. And AQMD has done a fantastic job working on the stationary stuff, the smokestack belching factories and electricity plants and other things, either by providing cleaner technology or other avenues of manufacturing. But as we go forward with our future and the future of our children, much of it's going to be focused and has to be focused on these mobile sources, trucks and cars. And you all see the newest, latest, and greatest technologies of plug-in hybrids, and there are now hydrogen vehicles that have zero emissions. And you're going to see a lot of change dramatically. If you owned the first iPhone ever sold, you've owned it for less than 10 and a half years. So you've seen the electric vehicles are now starting to catch on, but I think you'll see a pretty dramatic increase in the change in how automobiles operate. And South Coast Air Quality Management District is responsible for all of us to meet the federal clean air goals. We have met many of them, but there are some because of vehicular traffic that are just next to impossible without significant intervention to meet. And the AQMD struggles every day with how to meet those goals with limited funding and a massive population. We are one of the most densely populated places in the United States, and that comes some great benefits, but also some incredible challenges. But thank you for all your leadership and service for all those years. It's so strange that you're not there any longer. We got used to having you, but we do miss you, and I appreciate the opportunity to come all the way from across the street and accept this on behalf of the South Coast Air Quality Management District.
Before I present this to you, Supervisor Nelson, I just want to take a moment and thank him for something else, because I think this is going to change the city, change Orange County for the better, and that is the Orange County streetcar. Sean also happens to sit on the board of directors of the Orange County Transportation Authority, which I believe is the most really powerful organization in the county, because it's the only organization that touches the entire county. And you have 10 city reps, you have the board of supervisors on that board, and you have 2 at-large members. And not only do we have large budgets, but we have large responsibility, and we get to do a lot of things. One of those things, and it's been a multi-decade lift, has been lifting the Orange County streetcar from a drawing, from a concept, into reality. And that lift would not be possible without folks like Supervisor Nelson, because he has provided staunch support, solid common sense. Sometimes you just got to go to the bottom line and say what makes sense. And Sean has been, time and time again, a voice of clarity. Even recently, when we had this issue about the lowest bidder and who's the real lowest bidder, and we had an unqualified bidder $25 million below the qualified bidder, Sean stepped in strong and said, look, if we are going to have a bidder, the lowest bidder has to be qualified. Otherwise, they don't get to participate. And we're moving forward with the lowest qualified bidder. Again, clarity, especially in moments of chaos and of confusion. So when you see the Orange County streetcar, and it's going to start here in Santa Ana soon, one day I think it'll be throughout Orange County. But it's because of visionaries and supporters and folks like Sean Nelson that have made that difference. In 1988, Mayor Bradley did the first line in the county of Los Angeles. There was nothing really before that for a long, long time. Now look at LA. Look at you got the green line and the gold line, and you can go into the downtown and you hook up with Metrolink, and they're planning more things. A whole lot of people are moving around because they started in 1988. Well, this is 2018 in Orange County, but because of folks like Sean Nelson, in the future it's going to be a better future. It's going to be electric. It's going to be clean, so it'll be good for AQMD and for, all those goals, but it'll be good for us because we get to breathe the air. And with technology, it'll be integrated with Uber and all the other forms of transportation. But it's tough, believe me. Doing a project like that is very, very tough. So for his great work, and this doesn't have enough words, Sean, but you've done so much. And whereas the California, Clean Air Day encourages people to improve our community health by making more conscientious decisions related to transportation and energy use, it is my honor and privilege to present this to AQMD on behalf of the city via our friend and Supervisor Sean Nelson. While we stand over here.
The supervisor's also helping us get water grants as well. So I know we've been, advocating there on behalf of the county. No, we're good. I just wanted to thank him as well. Thank you.
Well, I can't wait till that streetcar's delivering employees home and workers straight to your doorstep. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Thank you very much.
18,000 of your employees are the County of Orange. They have 18,877 employees, the County of Orange. 18,877 employees the County of Orange has. They are the largest employer here in Santa Ana. So with that, thank you, Supervisor Nelson, for being here and for your leadership all these years. I would like to please have Daphne Grant from the Illumination Coordinator of Lights of Love from the International Wave of Light. If you can please join me. So we're going to be doing here a proclamation for Pregnancy Infant Loss Awareness Month. And so this is, I think, a very sensitive subject and one of remembrance. And I certainly have had actually friends that have had some stillbirth deaths and very traumatic, certainly. And so with that, I'm not going to go into a lot of the whereases because I want you to share a little bit about your organization and the things that you all have been doing really to pay tribute and really remembrance to these families. I think it's very important for us to highlight that. I think many times when we talk about these issues, they are sensitive in the public realm, but I think we need to bring awareness to these topics. And so I will be very brief because a lot of this are in the whereas, and I want you to share a lot of this information if you can, Daphne, but pregnancy and infant loss is common occurrence that is often not recognized. October recognizes Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. October 15 marks Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Day. So with that, by promoting awareness of this tragic occurrence, we're able to develop support and understanding, and I know that there are various programs out there. So Daphne, if you can please share with us what your organization has been doing and possibly other resources out there for our families who have experienced certain losses of such. Thank you. You come, come right, yep.
Thank you.
Of course, and you can, there's the public, there's the television, you can say hi.
Hi. I would like to thank you and Mayor Polito and Santa Ana City Council. Okay, where do I begin? Yes, October was established as National Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month in 1988 by President Ronald Reagan. And so we began celebrating, and as well, I wasn't there yet. And not you can say celebrating, but you can say celebrating in that we want to celebrate and honor and acknowledge the very brief lives that our children had on earth, whether we lost them perinatally or shortly after birth. So in order to try to raise awareness, we realized, as you said, it is a common occurrence. 1 in 4 pregnancies end in loss, and 1 in 8 people struggle with infertility. And this is a very common thing, as you can see from the statistics. And unfortunately, as many of us have it in common, it makes you feel very alone, and we're not. And I believe that's what awareness is so important. It is something that we should be able to acknowledge the lives of all of our children, whether they are living or not. So in 2004, a woman named Tara Lynn Coggin in New Brunswick, Canada, decided to hold the first memorial on October 15th. And it was originally scheduled to be a balloon release, and it actually defaulted into a candle lighting when an environmental group said, no, we're not going to have balloons breaking into the Bay of Fundy. So very quickly, a candle lighting ceremony was organized, and it continued every year. And then in 2014, global landmarks began to illuminate pink and blue. And I'm very excited to share that Santa Ana is illuminating the Orange County Water Tower starting tonight. It's going to be pink and blue almost the entire month of awareness. And that is joining so far 73 monuments that we know about in the world, and we don't know yet about the United Kingdom. So we'll probably get up to 100 this year. And I'm really nervous. So.
It's okay. Thank you so very much. It's a lot of information.
Yeah, it is.
And do you want to give some stuff out? Yes, please share what that is.
I'm hosting an event, and very generously sponsored by the Hacienda on College Avenue here in Santa Ana. And it will be on Monday, October 15th, which is our Remembrance Day. And we will be having a gentle memorial service, our own candle lighting. We'll have some refreshments, and we'll share our love together. And here's some flyers for that. It's free. And I also brought some wristbands for all of you. And they say Wave of Light 2018, Santa Ana, California.
Maybe you could go give one to my colleagues, and then we'll go ahead and give the rest of the clerk.
Great.
And then we'll do the proclamation. After 12 years, we don't get shy up here anymore, so definitely understand the very first time when you're here, you get a little shy, but you can give this to our clerk as well. And let me just do the whereas, if you can, let me, you don't want to hurt you here. It should be over here. Great. So I'm going to start off, whereas promoting awareness of the challenges faced by families who are experiencing death of their children during pregnancy and infancy is a positive means of establishing support and understanding. Now, therefore, we, the Mayor and City Council of the City of Santa Ana, do hereby recognize the month of October and October 15th as Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month and Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Day, and encourage all our residents of Santa Ana to become aware of the causes and impacts surrounding pregnancy and infant loss. So thank you so very much for bringing this to our attention, and we look forward to continuing to support your efforts and awareness here in the city of Santa Ana.
Thank you so much.
Great. Great, thank you so very much.
Now, Councilor Juan Villegas, please.
If I could have Chief Adams from the Orange County Fire Authority join me up here, please. I'd like to take a moment to welcome our new Division Chief for the City of Santa Ana from Orange County Fire Authority. This is Chief Jeff Adams. Every year we celebrate a week, we take note of Fire Prevention Week. And for the City of Santa Ana, we're declaring October 7th through the 13th a Fire Prevention Week, and I invited the Division Chief to come up here and speak to us about the importance of having fire prevention plans and a discussion at home. So Chief, if you could please speak to that, sir.
Thank you, Councilmember Villegas. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and members of the public, this is a moment and a time of year that is near and dear to our hearts. As we all know, fire prevention is a big deal, and it's difficult, especially in a city as big as yours, to prevent all of the fires, but we do our best with that. As was stated by the Councilman Villegas, our Prevention Week is going to begin on the 7th, but on the 6th, we are inviting all of you to come to our open house at 1 Fire Authority Road in Irvine to not only see the facility, but watch many presentations, firefighting, rescue, our search dogs at work, and experience lots of educational pieces that highlight the importance of having a family plan, a location to meet should you need to evacuate your home, emergency numbers that are on file, and a program that not only your entire family knows, but the folks that are near and dear to your family so they can help you should that occur. Again, it's important to have a plan, and the prevention piece of our fire world rests largely with all of you. So we want to partner with you and be part of your experience and hopefully prevent all the fire we can. And the things that we can't, we need you to have a plan and work that cogent plan so we can rely on each other in the event that one does get started and we have to fight the fire ourselves. So
Thank you, Chief Adams. And on behalf of the Mayor and City Council, if you could please accept this proclamation recognizing Fire Prevention Week. And once again, welcome to the City of Santa Ana.
thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Do you have any public comments? All right, last time we made some folks wait. Today you're going to go first. Are you ready, Dale? Yes. Okay. Come on down, sir. And then Thomas Courtney, I believe it is. And then Peter Katz, but he's not here, so we'll just go on to the next speaker. I'm kidding. I know you're here, Peter. Go ahead.
Well, pleasant surprise. Thank you very much. I've gotten done with the EIR review, and very enlightening. And based on that and the presentation that the developer made back at the August 27th Planning Commission meeting was really enlightening. A couple things that I wanted to point out to you from the applicant's presentation back on the 27th. City Code requires this project at 2525 to have 1,420 parking spots. Their total is 904. Needs to be resolved. They say that the existing property at Wells Fargo will generate 2,938 trips per day. The EIR says 791. It's a 371% increase in trips that they've been going around presenting to the city officials and other people saying that this is what the project's going to do. It's a lie. They also talk about a 3-story office building being 387,000 square feet. Can't do it. Not happening. The code won't allow it. But that's what they say, and trips will generate it. They also claim that a retail shopping center will generate over 6,400 trips per day. The property is not zoned for retail. I don't know why they present that outside of the fact that they want to present more numbers that make it worse and make their project look even better. They have an EIR summary of impacts in their presentation. They say that there's less than significant or no impact on their project. Again, the EIR says aesthetics is significant and unavoidable. I don't know why they want to present false information. They also talk about a project or a building. They say it's adjacent to Lincoln Town and Country building at the corner of Memory Lane and Main Street. They say it's adjacent to their property, and therefore it's going to balance out the neighborhood by putting their 5-story office or 5-story apartment next to it. It's not adjacent to it. We have the creek there, we have the riverbed, we have the park, and then the property itself. So again, it's a lie. And the last one, you guys may recognize a symbol. It's the Santa Ana Unified School District symbol. They say that they have expressed complete support for the project. Well, I talked to an official at the Santa Ana Unified School District. Totally a lie. They have not said that. They don't provide that information. And so it comes down to character, and the character of the developer is seriously in question when he keeps on putting out false information like this. And so I just want you to know that take the information they provide with a grain of salt, because it may not be true. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am here also with regard to the proposed 2525 Main Street project, and I'm here to speak to a couple of different issues with respect to this project. In particular, the EIR, which is over 3,500 pages of information, and within those 3,500 pages there are constant references to the impact along Main Street, the Main Street corridor itself, but nothing seems to really have direct focus upon the direct impacts of this project upon the R1, mostly single-story, single-family home community that is adjacent to it. And I'm finding it quite hard to believe that this report has come to conclusions which state that there won't be any impacts on traffic, when I know as a nearly 20-year resident of this neighborhood what the traffic is like on a daily basis during rush hour periods and non-rush hour periods. I've also had office space on Main Street at Palm Court for many years, and even before you get to the area where this project is going to be built, there are serious design flaws with regard to separation of lanes of traffic. I used to sit in my office every day and see cars backed up from the freeway past my office by the Bowers. This was several years ago. The problem is even worse. So the impacts of traffic upon Parque Santiago, and simply asking the residents of this part of Santa Ana to endure a tremendous amount of future development without proper infrastructure is what I would like to speak to this evening. I appreciate everyone's consideration of this project, and I do ask that you please consider voting no on the zoning change and not subjecting to the residents of North Santa Ana to this unbelievable amount of development that's going to be happening in our area. Thank you so much.
Peter Katz, please.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to piggyback on Fire Prevention Week. I attended a public safety meeting last night where passionately Councilmember Villegas imploded that we need to study bringing back the Santa Ana Fire Department. I think that's water under the bridge. That's history. We're saving $12 to $14 million a year, and the cost of doing that alone would be astronomical to the city. I think times have changed and we're moving on. And why this week is Fire Prevention Week? This was the week of the great Chicago fire that burned 7 square miles, that killed thousands of people and destroyed many, many, many businesses. And so this is a time of the year that fire prevention is important. Kitchen fires around Thanksgiving and Christmas tree fires are a big issue. So I don't think we should spend that money going there and studying bringing back the fire department. I think that fires now, with the safety that we have, with smoke alarms, we need to improve our smoke detector system to get them in all the homes. Most of the work of the fire department now is paramedic services. So I just think that times have changed, and we need to look the other direction. Even with our police department, a lot of work may be outsourced there in the future with license plate readers, the new DNA systems, cameras in all the parks, the latest technology. There's a lot of cost savings here that we can do there, and bringing back an old technology is not the answer. I just think that we need to improve what we have. And yes, one, I agree with you. In the new contract, you should negotiate Santa Ana having a say in the selection of its chief. So that I agree with you. But to bring back the fire department, the cost of the pensions and the new equipment alone would be astronomical, and I don't think that would be a good idea. So that's what I wanted to remark on. So I just think we're going down the wrong road if you go that route.
Thank you. Now I'm going to move on then. And we're going to go and ask City Attorney, is there anything to report out, Madam City Attorney? We don't have any reportable action. Okay. I'm now going to direct our attention to the consent counter. Let me take one speaker that we have, and then I'll go to Mayor Pro Tem Martinez to see what item she may want to pull. Boris Griesby with the Carpenters, I believe. If you can come down, please, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Boris Gressley, and I'm here on behalf of the Carpenters Contractors Cooperation Committee. We are a labor management organization that is comprised of the Southwest Regional Council of Carpenters and Union Contractors. I'm here tonight regarding item 11A in the agenda, and to express that the MIMU overlay expansion and corresponding project presents a perfect opportunity to create local benefits, community benefits, such as good paying jobs, local hire, responsible contractors, and rewarding career opportunities in the trades. Our mission at the Quad C is to monitor projects and ensure labor compliance with the law in the field of construction. As such, the developer whose project is linked with the MIMU overlay expansion has unfortunately a history of using a subcontractor who has been under investigation by the Department of Labor for wage violations and paid out close to $1 million in wages and penalties. Please make sure this public policy creates good quality jobs and not a situation for wage theft and the underground economy to go rampant. Thank you.
Thank you. I now bring our attention to the consent calendar, and I want to turn to Mayor Pro Tem Martinez, see if she has any items.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I am an 11, I want to pull 11A, 19D, 20A, 20B, and 25B.
I will entertain a motion on, is there any other items? If not, I'll entertain a motion on the balance.
Second.
Those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Item 11A.
Can I clarify the vote on 11A?
There is no vote yet.
I pulled the item.
She pulled it. There is no vote. Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, on 11A, which is adopt an ordinance of the City Council for the MIMU overlay zone, I think I provided my position at the last meeting. I want to just clarify for the record that I will continue to be a no, just giving by right to a development and or moving forward with this overlay zone without providing any community benefits, as this city has moved forward with doing a project labor agreement, wanting to make sure that we have good local paying jobs, that we have enough retail, that we have mixed use. I really believe, and I asked our staff at the last meeting as it pertains to the responsibility and how did we get here. Obviously, there wasn't anything that was malicious, but as I stated to our city manager and our city attorney, that moving forward, this cannot continue. Our city staff are not policy makers. This council is a policy body. And so very disappointed in how we got here. I don't blame the developer. I don't blame, why it's taken this long. It's unfortunate that we went through this process that we didn't have to go through. And so here we are, and it's unfortunate that I can't support, because I'm definitely very supportive of multi-housing. I also believe that we do need the housing, but under these conditions and not providing any community benefits and doing something by right, and now knowing and hearing this information that we just heard that, there are contractors that have been substandard and have not been paying the appropriate wages. I would like for our staff, as we continue to move forward, I think we all have made it a priority here, as we're a friendly labor community, that we make sure that we do all we possibly can to support our efforts, and that we make sure that folks are getting paid. And so because this is a by right project, there is no community benefit a part of this development, and it's unfortunate that this development will just go through. And so with that, those are my comments, Mr. Mayor, and I'm a no vote.
Thank you. I'm going to make a motion in the affirmative, and I'm going to vote that we vote on the recommended action, which is to place the ordinance on the second reading and to adopt it. And so we have motion a second. I also want to turn the floor over to Councilor Benavides, please.
Thank you, Mayor. On this item, this was an item that we discussed at various meetings, and at the last meeting, we ended up approving to move it forward to first reading. I wrestled with that vote, and at the end of the day was not supportive, simply because there was an opportunity to potentially make a good policy and document even better by way of clarifying the vision that council has for the area that the MIMO incorporates. So what I'd like to do is support the item tonight, but ask, in fact, if our planning and building director could approach. We talked briefly about this, an opportunity to be able to establish, not to amend the MIMO or its zoning necessarily as it stands today, but to rather give staff direction. One of the comments that the planning director made last meeting was that any further clarity from council would be helpful for staff for the implementation. So in essence, we talked to him about the idea of staff taking some time to put together a working policy for that would work within the existing framework for the implementation of the MIMO, to be able to refine and clarify the vision. Can you speak to that, Mr. Tai, and what that would?
So what you discuss is some working policy. What we could potentially do is develop some working policies based on the existing MIMO guidance for clarity, bring that back to the EDIBIT, and with that review, we can then bring it back to the council for a consensus that, in terms of until we can permanently amend the MIMO, is to use those as working policies. Those can continue to be under the existing framework of the MIMO, so that we're not straying away from the main focus, but that will help to provide some clarity for directing the development community and moving forward with some of the projects that will be going forward under the existing MIMO.
Thank you. So Mr. Mayor, that would be my request. That it would be more of an augmenting, not modifying the MIMO as it stands and as was approved last meeting, but rather giving the staff the opportunity to refine and clarify vision, and then bring it back, work through, present to the EDIBIT committee, and then bring it back for to council, to full council for consideration.
And the clarity is for future projects, not anything that's already in the works. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I just want to make it clear that my motion is to place the ordinance on a second reading and adopt. So that's crystal clear. I know Mayor Pro Tem's against that. I understand that. And you're talking about bringing something back in the future. The future council will consider, et cetera, et cetera. But I just want this motion to be clear so we don't have any confusion.
Right, so this would be something that would, I believe within 30 days, you would be able to bring something back for consideration. Is that?
In front of the city council, we could certainly do that, correct.
Yeah. So that's
All right, so.
my augment to the, if you're.
Well, it's a request. It's a request. But I just want to make sure that this motion is clear, that with this, we're done with this. You can bring it back in 30 days, based on your comments, and we'll take it up.
Right.
All right. So with that, we have a motion, a second. Any comments? Not. Those in favor, please say aye.
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 No.
So 1 no for the clerk, and all the others are yeses, 5 yeses, and one abstention or absence. So with that,
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is
Go ahead.
19D, and this is the, which I'm very supportive of the preferential permit parking implementation process and wanting to thank our Public Works Director for that. But I also, since we have this item, I also wanted to talk about where are we at in the process as it pertains to the pilot that we started several months ago. And so if it's not the Public Works Director, Mr. City Manager, or William Galvez, our city engineer, if you all can help and indulge me and where we are in that process. Obviously, we have a lot of parking problems within our residential areas, and we're now dealing with this permit parking implementation process. But this council asked several months ago that we would be doing a pilot on parking. And so this is just one issue. There are a lot of other issues that we discussed, and we wanted to do a pilot. And so, Mr. Public Works Director, can you please indulge me and tell me where we're at in that process?
Good evening, Fuad Suez, Public Works Director, Mayor Pro Tem, through the Mayor, Council members. As you noticed from this item, we've made major improvements to the permit parking process. We're hoping that this will, reduce the backlog and make it much easier to implement this program. I have our senior engineer, our principal engineer, Teg with me, and he will talk in more detail about the pilot program.
Fantastic, thank you. Good evening, Teg.
Good evening, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the council. We are continuing to work on the pilot study. Very quickly, it's the Northeast District and the East Side District. One of the major components of that is we're trying to compare the amount of cars that are registered within the district versus the amount of spaces available, and that's actually proving quite challenging. We're working with the DMV to determine the amount of cars registered. We're still waiting for that information from them. And then the amount of spaces available has also been very challenging. We found about 160 multi-family residential apartment complexes that we're working through trying to determine how many spaces available. And then we will continue after that to look for opportunities to provide more parking in the area. So we're still a couple of months out, but we're continuing to work on it very diligently.
Fantastic, thank you. And do you have a project or a pilot timeline of when this will be coming before the council for consideration? And if you need any third-party data, I was able to get some information as it pertains how many cars per residential area through SCAG, and they have third-party data that they can possibly give to you. So if you need some assistance with that, you can contact Kimberly Clark, or I can contact Kimberly Clark for you and see how we can expedite that, because that data is available, and I've seen it personally here for the city of Santa Ana.
Very good. We would absolutely appreciate that. We are still a couple of months out from our pilot study.
Okay.
And then we would present that
So
to
you
council.
don't foresee anything coming by the end of this year, or are you looking at into next year?
I would hope that we can do it by December.
Okay.
That's our hope.
So, okay, all right. Our goal is December. All right, with that, I'll move this item forward, Mr. Mayor.
do we have a second?
Second.
Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next item is 20A, which is appropriation adjustment agreement with the South Cal Air Quality Management District. And I just, as a mayor, awarded and recognized Supervisor Nelson, I just wanted to congratulate our city in continuing our efforts to move forward and receive grants, not only from the Air Quality Management District, but also the MSRC. And here we're moving forward, and we've been using these revenues more towards AV, which is electrical vehicles. I sit on the MSRC committee on behalf of the Southern California Association of Governments, and so I get to approve these items here for the entire South Coast Air Quality Management District. And we approved a couple, about 5 or 6 million this past last Thursday. And what I did notice that municipalities are moving towards providing AV public access. So various cities are moving in that direction. Santa Ana has yet to move in that direction. And so I would just ask and implore that as we move forward to continuing to do electrical vehicle infrastructure, that we also make it available to the public. It cannot just be for city employees, government employees. We need to do our best to provide that infrastructure for the public. And so I would just encourage our staff as we move forward to the next steps and next recommendation is to support public electrical vehicles. And with that, Mr. Mayor, approve the item.
I'd be happy to second that motion. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
And very quickly, Mr. Mayor.
Motion carries. Go ahead.
Number 20B, I'm just to know these are improvements and again, awards to, extend Warner, and I'm a no to any expansions of our.
All right, do I have a motion to improve Warner?
Second.
Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries.
Is that 25B or 20B?
That was 20B. That
Go
was
ahead.
Warner. My last item is 25B, which is approve agreement for tenant goodwill compensation. So I have a question for our staff. Here is the property located at 111 North Bristol, and as our staff is looking at disposition policy, I see that we're entering into a lease here with Goodwill, and so I'm not sure exactly what, property this is. I have a question for our staff. Obviously, we own that. I've asked our staff to articulate to the council when this comes before us, a disposition policy, what properties are currently owned by the city, are being leased. And this is one great example. I had no idea that Goodwill was utilizing this particular property, and so I think it's important for us to be transparent and as we move forward, identifying what properties we actually have, because this is the first of my knowledge that I understand that Goodwill is currently going to be utilizing this site, Mr. Public Works Director. And so I ask a question to you: when will this disposition policy and backup in regards to having a matrix of what these properties are, what's leased, and what's currently vacant or underutilized?
I think this item is explaining the type of compensation, Goodwill compensation, rather than the nonprofit Goodwill, but maybe if the staff can confirm that.
Basically, this particular item, under this particular item, we're seeking your authorization to compensate a business that we acquired its property about 2 years ago for the Goodwill. And usually, it's my understanding from the city engineer, because he started working on this over 3 years ago, is that there is a time frame of 3 years during which, if the business proves that they lost goodwill, then they are entitled for compensation on that.
I have no problem with the we now own that land, correct?
Yes.
Is that and that's my rationale and why I pulled this item as we're moving forward with the disposition policy. It's just come to my knowledge that this is now our land, right? And for obvious reasons, we've been purchasing land on Bristol because we've been expanding our roads. And so as we move forward and continuing to do this, if there is a matrix available of when we are acquiring those properties, it would be to our benefit to understand, how those monies, or what monies were used. And currently, if this property is going to be used to expand Bristol, or it's going to be underutilized like the other properties that we have on Bristol that we purchased with Measure M1 and M2, and how we're going to dispose of those properties, and if those dollars, if we do dispose, are they going to remain within the Bristol project, or will we be able to utilize those funds for other purposes? And so that was the intent for me pulling this item.
Thank you for clarifying. Basically, we're preparing a complete report to submit to your council next meeting on October 16 that will detail the inventory of all the properties owned by the city, which ones have certain funding restrictions, or if it has any restrictions on how it has to be sold, and which ones owned by different agencies such as housing or community development.
Thank you for that.
Yes,
I think
and we'll come up with recommendations on how to dispose of these properties.
Thank you so very much. Move the item forward.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I want to go to a moment back to item 20A. 20B, excuse me. Councilor Tinajero, you weren't here, but
You need 5
this,
votes.
we need an appropriation adjustment. It's to improve Warner Avenue, so I'd like to have it brought back for a vote again. Can I have a motion?
Move the item.
Second.
Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Thank you for that. Are we done with the consent?
Yep.
All right, we're done with the consent. I'd entertain a motion on item 55A.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, before we go to 75A, do we have a commissioner who is...
We do have a commissioner,
Looking this one.
Felipe Guerrero, who's just been appointed to the Board of Parks and Recreation, and he's the Garden Grove Unified School District representative. If I can swear
So
him in.
go ahead.
I, Felipe Guerrero, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, Constitution of the City of California, State of California, against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of eviction, that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties which I'm about to enter. All right, thank you.
He's also a fantastic leader of the Santa Anita Neighborhood Association. We're very grateful. Thank you.
All right, now we're ready for 75A. So this is time and place for a public hearing that
Mayor,
was continued. Go ahead.
I pulled this item, so I know you have to go through the hearing.
Go ahead.
You don't have to read the stuff?
We already did it before, so I'll just say that at the right moment, I'll call for the public hearing.
Yes,
Go
so
ahead.
I want to thank our community and he has such a long title that I'm just going to say, our Economic Development Community Development Director, Stephen Mendoza, and his staff, Judson, for really coming back and really highlighting and putting things into sequence where it makes more sense, not only just for the council, but for the public. So I'm going to be moving forward with the item, but the other issue that we wanted to talk about is we move forward with our policies as it pertains to the consolidated annual performance evaluation. One of the issues that I know that was brought up through our commission and also many times on this dais as we face a housing crisis is figuring out ways for tentative base rental assistance. And so that's just one policy, but I know there are a lot of other policies that we've talked about on this dais to help with the housing crisis. And so I would like to see how we can discuss some of these policies at the EdBit to then bring recommendations to this council and also to the commission as we move forward with our new consolidation plan for the following year, that we're all intact with what we want to see as it pertains with our housing dollars and our housing policies. I think it's time that we look at what our commission's doing, what the city council has been asking, and more importantly, the community. But again, I just wanted to thank our staff for really putting the numbers in a way where they are transparent and we understand where they're coming from. Obviously, there is a lot of room for improvement, but again, in regards to policy decisions, that's up to us and what we would like to see moving forward. But in the interest of time, Mr. Mayor, again, I think the work that we have been doing as it pertains to homelessness and also to helping with affordable housing, our staff has done a great job with the resources that they have, and just wanted to commend them for that. And with that, I move the item forward.
Well, just as a formality, let me open up the public hearing, just make sure nobody showed up today and wants to address us on this item. I have no cards.
I have not received
So
any.
seeing no one, I will close the public hearing, bring it to council for consideration. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Item 85A, Mayor Pro Tem Martinez,
Yes,
please.
Mr. Mayor, and I'll be very quick as we move forward with development and making changes to zoning. You know, across this country, across this state, you know, there's typically a standard that we ask developers to move forward in doing. And, you know, I've contacted a few, and, you know, it is a standard for us to do a fiscal and impact analysis. And we haven't been doing that in a lot of our developments. And as I tell you that our golden goose, we can't count on retail tax anymore. It's been declining since 2015, and it's going to continue to decline. We're hitting a major recession. And so we all know that at the end of the day, that something that is consistent is our property tax. And we receive more property tax than we do sales tax. And so as we change our land use and our zoning, we need to make sure that we're making the best decisions as possible. And we should be requiring our development community to do fiscal analysis and impacts to our infrastructure. This is not novel. This is a standard. And I'm going to ask you all to ask and authorize our staff to move forward in that direction, and making sure all new developments, that this is the standard, that they provide these documents so that you all see that when you're approving you know, these major land use decisions or projects, that it pencils out not only for the city,
I think it's
but
a good
for community.
motion.
And with that, Mr. Mayor?
So that's a motion.
Yes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor, please say aye.
I have a comment, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Through our general plan that we're working, I think part of this is just how this work is done, and I don't know if as the staff is working on the general plan and everything related to that, if this may be one element of that. So if the staff can respond.
The kind of analysis that the Mayor Pro Tem is asking for is generally not a part of the general plan itself. The general plan will examine the overall fiscal changes, but for when it's project specific, you get down a little more detail level. So the general plan will evaluate the overall impact of the proposed land use changes citywide. And then when we have project-specific level, then we can get down to the details on the impact of the projects.
But I would argue and suggest that what we put in the general plan also drives what kinds of uses are at different
Correct.
places, and highest and best use, whether there's sites for manufacturing versus retail, residential. So there are major economic components to the general plan, and then
That's
the new projects try to find areas in the city where to develop or redevelop. So I do see a connection there as well.
You're
I just
absolutely
want to make
correct.
sure that the two things are integrated, because if we really want to see property tax growth, part of that is just how we set aside land for different types of purposes.
Correct. So if I make a recommendation, so right now we're going through the process of updating the general plan. Ideally, once we establish the general plan, that is the vision of the community, and once adopted, it would be something that we wouldn't modify as regularly as we do now since we didn't have it updated. So I can work on developing a policy to where between now and updating the general plan, we can look at different levels of projects with different level of economic analysis for land use and zone changes that we're doing right now. We should do an in-depth analysis for projects that are compliant with zoning. I think there's a lower level of analysis. And then, when we updated general plan, that's when ideally we would not have a lot of zone changes and amendment, as you brought up.
And then maybe we look at city best practices that you could share with the city council members. Finally, the other thing I'm a little bit concerned about is, we're kind of in that place where our finances, we don't know if there is going to be a sales tax increase or not, and so to keep imposing new requirements, new reports, et cetera, on the staff, I want to be mindful that, we continue to ask staff to do additional things when they barely have enough time and resources to do their existing amount of work. So I think, and this is kind of where our city manager plays a role in figuring out how to juggle all these needs and the timing of them. So just wanted to share those thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, we have a motion, a second. Those in favor again, please say aye. 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 Those opposed, motion carries unanimously. I'm not going to recess, go to the Housing Authority.
Excuse Councilman Sarmiento.
Let's not excuse him.
Oh.
I'm kidding.
Oh, he's on the agenda. Okay.
All right, a motion to delete from the agenda? No, let's continue. He's already on there. So I'd entertain a motion on the Housing Authority, please. And that includes the business calendar.
So move.
Those second?
Second.
Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. I'm going to adjourn now and go to the Successor Agency meeting. I would entertain a motion on items 1, 2, and 3. 2 being the excused absence of Councilmember Sarmiento. I'd entertain a motion.
Move the item. Second.
Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. We now have no public comment because we took those earlier. And now we're going to go to city manager comments, please.
Mr. Mayor, I'll be brief. I just wanted to thank you for confirming my last and final executive director appointment, Ms. Lisa Rudloff, who will come in and serve as our community and Parks and Recreation director. She will start on October 22nd, and that would complete the executive team.
Thank you. Thank you. Council member comments. Council member Saldina-Hero, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have, first and foremost, our new fire chief is here today. I don't know if you introduced him earlier. If you could,
if you want to do so, please have him come up.
Can you come on up and if you could introduce yourself so that
Councilmember Villegas did introduce already.
Okay, so we did that. I apologize. I apologize, but I wanted to.
Who's going to do it again?
Yeah, you're a celebrity tonight, so I just wanted people to know that he's here, and he had his first Public Safety Committee meeting yesterday, so he's getting his feet wet as we go forward and try to continue to give the best possible service to our residents. So I thank you. And we are heading into a time right now where students are starting to transition out of their first grades and going into their second trimester grades and so forth. And our athletic sports are off and running and off to a great start. I believe our Segerstrom football team is I think they've only lost one game. Our Santa Ana football team is doing very well as well. So I encourage people to continue to go out there and support our students. They're doing a great job and really excelling and putting our students on the map. So with that, Mr. Mayor, that'll be my comments.
Thank you very much for those comments. Mayor Pro Tem Martinez.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just like to request from our city manager, we're 6 months into the budget. You know, as I have been shared with you all, I've been reading the CAFR for 2017. We have the CAFR report coming up for this December. and just wanting to know when that will be coming to EdBit, and then as well, when will we get a mid-year budget review to see where we're at in regards to folks who said we were going to hire, where we're at, at this period in time. I think it's very important as we're dealing with budget constraints for us to review that. And then finally, just wanting, as we look at election season, it's almost here. November 6th is around the corner, but in a few days, vote by mail starts on October 9th. And I learned a very valuable experience when I ran for the Orange County Supervisor. Over 10,000 at least ballots were not counted because people did not sign their names, their signatures did not match. And if you do not check, here in Orange County, we have a very proactive Register of Voters, Neil Kelly, who has invested in technology. And so we are one of the few counties in California that is able to look when you actually mail in your ballot. A week later, you can go online and check to see if your vote actually counted. So when I voted for myself, I realized that when I checked, my vote did not count. So I had to contact the Register of Voters and realized that my signature when I was 19 years old changed from what it was today. So I had to go and change my signature, right? I had to redo my registration so that it matches. And so I want to implore our residents that if you do vote by mail, you have the option to go online to make sure that your vote actually counts. And more importantly, that if you are going to decide to take it in, make sure that you fill out everything, but also sign your name behind the envelope. If you do not sign your name, your ballot will not count. So I want to make that very clear. This election matters. So if you want your vote to count and you vote by mail, make sure that you pay attention to that. And with that, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Jose Solorio, please.
Yes, thank you. A few things, and they're all constituent related, and in no particular order. There are three items. I've received some complaints regarding one of the newest residential developments going up in town that's on Pacific and First by the Olson Company. And I got to tell you, I don't know how this got approved the way it is, and I'm going to look it all, but it's woefully an underparked area, and you have folks parking illegally inside and outside the place because of the lack of parking. Probably there was a continued thought that it's near transit because of the bus lines on First Street, but there's a lot of big units. It's largely, family apartments, condos, woefully underparked. I also wonder with the garages which are attached, whether they're really being used for parking or for storage, which obviously exacerbates the problem. I know I've had some email exchange with some of the staff. I was there midday yesterday driving the area. It's bad in the middle of the day, let alone at night. So if staff can on evening go check that out and monitor that, that'd be great. Secondly, and this relates to homelessness a little bit, and I heard another complaint either verbally or in one of the letters we received today. Recycling centers and metal shops, maybe we can have code enforcement go out and look to make sure that they're abiding by all the rules. Because for some of these things, particularly the metal shops, there's often the case based on what you're bringing in that you got to do fingerprints, that you can't pay in cash, but in check, yada, yada. And oftentimes it's simpler for these business owners just to look the other way, particularly near 6th and Garfield. Major problems there with homeless and drug sales and major problematic stuff ongoing, and it's because they're there. Finally, I received a letter from a union organization. I'll forward the email to the staff asking about the incl housing project and whether there were any public dollars in that property that should trigger prevailing wage or other such things. I know there was a preliminary review some time ago, but I'd like that revisited just because I have to respond to this constituent. That would be fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Villegas, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to make a comment. One of the members of the public was speaking about the Public Safety Committee meeting yesterday we had where I was speaking about OCFA. And you have to remember when the Santa Ana Fire Department was disbanded 6 years ago and we went to OCFA was because we were having a budget crisis and the fire department at the time, the union, didn't want to renegotiate the MOU. And when we went to OCFA, they realized that, we can lower the number of people on duty instead of being stuck or adhering to the MOU, which they did not want to renegotiate. The police department gave back their raise, and, there was just a little bit of turmoil. We ended up having to go ahead and disband, and it was kind of good for the Santa Ana Fire because they left here, went to OCFA, and they're allowed to double dip. So they're getting paid over there and then receiving a retirement check from here. So that was one of the problems. But without getting too deep into it, that's why we saved over $10 million by going over there. So now if you look at the number of staff that we have here, the millions would be much less than what it was when we were there. So another thing is, here we are, we have a police department that's been without a contract since February. All of our city employees have to fight over crumbs, but over at OCFA, those raises are budgeted. So I am one vote out of 23. I'm the director. I'm one of the directors over there on the board. And so I'm up against another 22 folks. And you get outvoted all the time. So, we don't control any of the raises. Yet our city employees here are doing without, and over there, we have no control. And that's one of the reasons that I wanted to bring local control back and for us to do a study. It's not a permanent thing at the moment or decision, but we have to look at what we have before us. And that is my comment, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Benavides, please.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of comments. One is want to invite and remind our residents that this Saturday's first Saturday of the month, Art Walk in our downtown, and it's going to be a lot of exciting different occurrences from art shows to live music and all in our downtown. Always a fun time here in Santa Ana, and this weekend you don't want to miss out on that first Saturday in downtown. Second thing I wanted to make mention of. Myself and Councilman Villegas had the opportunity to be present for a community safety forum that took place this last week Wednesday. On the panel were several community members from different nonprofit organizations that serve the city and the community in the area of working with our young people, particularly those who need a second chance, have maybe had a run-in with the law, but it was refreshing specifically to hear from the law enforcement executives who were present, the school police chief, and more specifically our own Chief Valentin. Any city, any big city faces big city challenges. How you approach the challenges that you face is key, and it is important for to be able to see a positive outcome long term. And I've got to say, and I was very proud of both our school police chief, but again, more particularly here, our local city chief and Chief Valentin, somebody who's homegrown and understands some of the challenges that our youth face. And sometimes, given certain neighborhoods that you might grow up in, you might be more inclined to be pulled into making poor decisions. However, it's key and it's important that we don't give up on our young people, and that we don't also that we treat all members of our community with dignity, treat them well, and it's clear that there is a culture, both a culture and expectation within the police department where officers are being supported by command staff, yet at the same time where there's a level of accountability, and that ultimately the community safety as a whole, and there's a lot of outside the box thinking that needs to take place in implementation, not just going out and strictly enforcing the law, but working with the community to hand in hand see a positive future and just elevated quality of life. So I just want to commend our chief for his leadership, our city manager for that appointment, and as a resident and somebody who works with youth in our community, I'm glad that we have your level of leadership and commitment. So I wanted to acknowledge and thank you for that. And going forward, I know that there will be additional work. It's a long-term effort of community-oriented policing. I know our police chief is going out and reaching out to our community. So in part, I want to make the comment because as the council members that will be here going forward to ensure that culture and support of working hand in hand with our community and police department, it'll be key that the council going forward has that value and that commitment. So again, just want to acknowledge and recognize that. Public safety, there's both the police component, then there's the fire and paramedic services. And you know, I wanted to also, and I've made mention of this before, both here in public, but also in conversations with our city manager. Years ago, out of necessity, we entered into an agreement with the Orange County Fire Authority. They're a fine agency and do good work. They've been serving our community well. However, there are a number of different issues that have raised concern for the city and our residents over the years. And I would also recommend and echo what the chairman of I believe you're chairing the Public Safety Committee at this point, if not, in any case, the director of Santa Ana, appointed director at OCFA, Councilman Villegas, some of the suggestions that he brings up, that it is something that we should take a step back as soon as we're able to just analyze and see whether it does make sense for us to remain at the Orange County Fire Authority. I know other cities have made the choice, made the decision that for them it isn't prudent to continue, and it might be something that we should evaluate and consider. David, can you wrap up? I will be wrapping up here next first Tuesday in November, election day. I can't stress enough. Want to echo some of the other comments that have been made for our community to participate and vote. And last is just want to encourage folks to support Santa Ana, local businesses, and shop here locally. Shop Santa Ana.
Thank you for those comments. I just want to say that something very significant to happen recently here in the city, but it's easy not to be aware of it, and that is that the board of the Orange County Transportation Authority approved a $400 million project, which is the Orange County streetcar. You can't see it yet, but you know the colors are being selected. Corporate yard is being arranged for. The construction contract is being let out. And before you know it, it's all going to be under construction. It's going to be a huge project. I think it's going to change Santa Ana for the better and give us a lot of opportunities, including development of projects all along the route. So with that, this meeting is adjourned.